Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, that list includes Splatoon 3 and Potion Permit.
Oh, little Splatoon.
Little Splatoon. Little Nintendo first party. Splat. Yep.
I heard a lot of interesting ways to pronounce the name of that game.
Splatoon.
Is that what you're going with?
Splatoon. I think that's sort of the generally recognized. Proper
Yeah, that's the one I hear the most.
Splatoon.
I've heard it more like Splatoon, but I like this Splatoon.
You put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Sounds vaguely like European.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we can get into that.
Yeah. We'll spend 45 minutes talking about exactly that.
That's what the people want.
That's what the people want.
Tuning in.
Yep.
Speaking of what the people want, just wanted to observe a quick moment of silence for Google Stadia.
Oh.
Okay, that's enough. I think we can move on.
Yep. About as much time as we've given to Google Stadia on the podcast, so.
Yeah. Remember when they first announced that thing and, like, for just an infinitesimally small amount of time, I don't even know if they can measure stretches of time in this small a stretch, but I had that thought where I was like, maybe they'll do it. Maybe this is the one. But no, it just played out exactly like everybody expected.
Yeah. Yep. It's it's disappointing. I was cautiously optimistic, I think, like you, about a streaming service that kind of could work everywhere as long as you had the controller.
Yeah,
who
I'm
better
on the
to pull
record
that
as
off?
being a fan of PlayStation now. Like, I was very skeptical until I tried it, and it's actually pretty good. So,
yeah.
Worries about streaming services aside, it was more it's more Google's involvement that made me paranoid about this one.
Yeah. As someone who has spent a very long time sort of committed to Google's infrastructure around devices and services, and has wound up sort of repeatedly disappointed at their sort of inability to sort of just get across the finish line with any of their harebrained ideas. Yeah, this is pretty much where I thought Stadia was going to go.
Did you try Stadia at any point? Did you get one of those fancy controllers?
I think briefly, yeah, they were doing a thing where if you bought a Google Home, you got a Stadia controller for free or something like that. Generally not a good sign when they're giving it away for free. And it came with like a month or two of free service. And I could run it on my phone. I have Pixel phones. I've had Pixel and Nexus and Android phones forever and ever. And I'm like, yeah, let's give it a shot. I'll play some streaming video game on the tiny screen of my phone.
Yeah.
And it was cool for like a minute. I forget what I played.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. But yeah, what a cool idea. And there was a part of my brain that was sort of like, I travel a lot. I'm frequently in hotels. Like if I just brought a Chromecast with me, I could plug it into a hotel TV and play video games as long as the Wi-Fi would hold up.
Yeah, that sounds like, got to temper
there's
your
the rub.
expectations.
Exactly, yeah. We've struggled to record a podcast using hotel Wi-Fi, let alone, streaming a video game over it. So
right. It's going to be tough to play Street Fighter V on the go over
right.
Google Stadia.
I mean, admittedly, I'm not playing a lot of Street Fighter V, but...
No? Oh, what happened to you?
I know, I've been such a champion for that game. Yeah. But they're doing right by the people who have invested a ton of money into that thing. They're just refunding it. They're just giving you all your money back.
That was amazing, actually. Yeah, I'm really surprised.
So the tone of the story in the media and on social media specifically would have been much darker if they had just absconded with everyone's cash.
Yeah.
But there's some article I've read about Google. Like this dude who spent 5,000 hours on Red Dead Redemption Online on Stadia.
Oh.
Like,
what happened to his account?
What do I do? What about all my progress? I'm like, it's not really progress, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's like a lot of people, like Grand Theft Auto Online is just their game that they play.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, isn't that stuff, I mean, I hope that stuff is kind of synced with some server that Rockstar owns or something like that, but I have no idea how that works.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain about Red Dead. I know that he has started like a social media campaign to get portability for his account on that, so he can go over to some other platform and not give up his progress. But which leads me to believe that is not innately built into the system already.
Yeah, it sounds like if anybody would know how to do that, it's probably that guy.
The guy who has spent 5,000 hours looking for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, that's rough. I didn't even consider it. I didn't realize that was on the platform or the service or whatever. It's rough.
Yeah. Did you? The other news story, and now we're talking about Stadia. Apparently, this is what's happening. Is there was some story about them doing a follow up to Death Stranding that was going to be a Stadia exclusive?
No, it wasn't.
Have you heard this? Not heard this? No.
Wait, was this real?
This is real. Who's the developer whose name I can never remember who made Death Stranding?
Hideo Kojima.
Kojima had pitched to Google, I'll make sort of a follow-up to Death Stranding. It'll be a Stadia exclusive. And Google said, no, thank you.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Can you really believe anything that guy says, though? I feel like you got to give it a pretty large grain of salt.
Yeah, that's probably true. So, RIP to Google Stadia.
Yeah, we hardly knew you. But anyway.
Has any other beloved and important things in your life come to an unceremonious end lately?
I don't know. Not as beloved as Google Stadia.
What's your Nintendo game that...
Dragalia Lost.
Dragalia Lost.
Yeah. It's got another month or two left.
Do you have 5,000 hours of progress you're going to lose?
No, and I've made my peace with it. I mean, I will not be able to play that game anymore, but I'm not really broken up about it.
Yeah.
I know, I mean, that's not the case for every Dragalia Lost player, which is, hope they're doing all right. But, as soon as they announced that, I just kind of, I internalized that very quickly, actually. I was surprised. I just thought, well, I've had a good run with this game. I don't really see the need to continue sort of grinding experience points for my party at this point. So, it was a little sad, but I've basically walked away from it at this point.
It's very mature of you.
Oh, thank you. Other than that, I don't think anything in my life, sort of gaming-wise, has shut down recently.
Oh, good. That's a win.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a loss. How about you? Any high-profile shutdowns on over in Harrisburg?
No, I don't think so.
Good.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever played. Have I played a video game that sort of got turned off or disconnected or shut down? I don't think so.
They're shutting down Overwatch 1 so they can roll out Overwatch 2. I know people are not thrilled about it.
Did you ever get into that? Have you ever played Overwatch? Not my
I played my share of Overwatch back closer to when it came out. Didn't really stick with it. And in fact, I'm struggling to really understand what the implications of Overwatch 2 coming out are, because my understanding was if you owned Overwatch 1, you will just be able to continue playing Overwatch 2 because it's free to play, and I think some of the stuff in your account carries over. But really haven't been involved with that game in years at this point, so it's mostly speculation.
Yeah, I tend to sort of fizzle on most video games long before anybody thinks about pulling the plug on them. So, yeah, Animal Crossing notwithstanding.
What about? Did they announce they're shutting down that? Actually, I don't know if this is true. I was going to say that was it Outriders, the Square Enix game that came out last year.
Yep.
I don't know if that's actually the case though.
Babylon's Fall. That's the Square Enix game.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Probably. I have no idea how Outriders is doing.
Been a travesty from there was something with the Outriders. The Outriders was supposed to be a trilogy, and the publisher was like, "No, we're good." So it may not become a trilogy. But yeah, Babylon's Fall is the one that like a week after release, there were like 60 people playing it globally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Generally not a good sign. So yeah, Square Enix is shutting that down in February after less than a year.
Wow, look at you, all up to date on Babylon's Fall.
Well, I just Googled what is the game that Square Enix is shutting down.
Okay.
Yep.
That one I thought about playing because I thought some of the Nier guys were involved in that, but everybody was just so down on it. I thought, ooh, maybe not even worth it, just out of curiosity.
You got a few months, 4 months.
Yeah, well, maybe at this point I'll just be like, how bad could it possibly be?
There's enough time you could stream it during Extra Life.
That's true. Oh man, don't give me ideas.
Speaking of Extra Life, it's coming. It's on the horizon. It's not that far away. It is a month away from release of this episode.
That's true. Oh yeah, this comes out right on the day.
So Extra Life is Saturday, November 5th this year. DJ and I will be playing video games for... That's Daylight Savings Time weekend, so 25 hours.
Why is it always the same weekend?
Because they're cruel. They're heartless.
Oh, well. We've survived up to this point, so we'll be fine. Yes.
Although it gets harder and harder as I get older and older. DJ.
That's true.
And we're not doing this just for fun. Fun is a part of it, but it also is a good cause. We are raising money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals in our communities. We would love your support to cheer us on, to motivate us, to help us keep going.
Stay up into the wee hours of the night playing those last few quests of Kingdom Hearts. Babylon's
Fall. For more info and to see how you can donate, you can go to VGHangover.com/extralife. That is, once again, Saturday, November 5th. In the coming weeks, we'll have like a whole agenda of video games we want to play. Some of those are multiplayer. You're welcome to join us. We would love for you to join us, in fact. We'll be streaming all day as well, so keep your eyes peeled for more info.
Yeah, the schedule is starting to come together. We're starting to figure out what we're actually going to be playing, so like Randy said, keep an eye on VGHangover.com/extralife. And as sort of a side thing, just in the run-up to Extra Life, I have decided, I've taken it upon myself to do some weekend streams of spooky games all October long.
Ooh.
Calling it Spooky Saturdays because that's obvious. But that will be, you can follow us at twitch.tv/VGHangover, and it'll be on my personal Twitch as well. You can get the links for that at VGHangover.com. Just trying to get back in the swing of streaming things to get ready for Extra Life. And everybody loves a good spooky stream, right? That's what I've heard anyway.
Yeah. October is the spooky month.
It's true. It wouldn't make any sense to play these next month, so might as well do it now. The list, again, kind of up in the air. I'm narrowing it down. But tune in this Saturday, and we'll play some spooky games. Or I will play a spooky game, and other people will observe me playing a spooky game.
Ooh. Cool.
Ooh.
The Saturday Scaries.
Maybe that's what I should call it.
The Saturday Spooky Saturday.
Yeah. Sunday Scaries is...
that's a thing.
Maybe that's what you're thinking of. Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. Yeah.
No, I won't be streaming the Sunday Scaries. It's not quite as fun.
No, not at all. No. I get a little of that every now and then. The weekend
the Sunday Scaries?
As the weekend comes to a close and I have this sinking feeling that I have to go back to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I don't mind my job. I like my job. I like the people I work with. It's not, I'm not, mining for ore or anything like that. It's a pretty reasonable job. But you still get to that sadness at the end of the weekend.
Yeah. Maybe you should stream it on twitch.tv.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes over. Yeah. Me just talking at length about how I don't want to go to work tomorrow.
I just called it twitch.tv like some 80-year-old.
If you can't find it, look it up on the Google.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Video games.
Video games. Play anything good this month or this week?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
This year?
Anything?
Yeah.
Anything at all this year?
So I had teased in the previous episode that I was going to talk about ooblets this week, to sort of keep our sort of trend going with farming games.
Yeah, we got to complete the sandwich.
Yeah, but this sandwich will remain sort of open-faced for the foreseeable future. One, I got super hooked on Splatoon this week and just put a ton of hours into that.
Oh.
And two, ooblets just put out a seasonal Halloween event. And I don't want to talk about ooblets without having played the fun, spooky Halloween event. So,
it hasn't started yet? Or it just started?
It just started. They just launched it this weekend.
I see.
So let me get some time with that, and I will save ooblets for a coming week.
All right. Wow, unexpected spooky game.
So exactly. Cute spooky, though. Spooky.
Right, but that's still valid.
Yeah, totally. That's my favorite kind of spooky, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Pinko Park just came out on a bunch of new stuff.
Yeah, I want to play that as well.
Ooh.
But Splatoon 3 is the game that
Splatoon 3.
I've been playing.
How spooky is this?
A lot of hours of. Not terribly.
Not terribly. Is it spooky at all? The previous ones weren't really.
No. There's a ton of customization in this, particularly in the online portion, and I've seen just recently a ton of characters that are in sort of like gothy clothes, like ripped up fishnet stockings and like a long black like Elvira dress and a witch hat. And I'm like, how do I get a witch hat? Where is there like a store that sells Halloween stuff or like a seasonal store or something somewhere?
They just have a Spirit Halloween.
This is a Spirit Halloween because
Splatoon Plaza or whatever.
Sure, they are everywhere. Yeah, there's an old Circuit City in the Splatoon Plaza that has gone out of business, and now every Halloween it becomes a Spirit.
Right. Excellent.
So I don't know where that is lurking. I've not gotten to that point yet. I'm still wearing my basic T-shirt and boots. I've not found. You get limited resources, and I would generally just sort of like get new guns. I don't really like. Cool. I want new headphones and stuff like that for my character, and those have perks attached to them.
Well, you need like a bare minimum outfit, right? Because you don't want to just show up and you're wearing the starting gear. Everybody's going to be like, oh, this guy.
This guy. Yeah. Oh no, I'm still in the starting gear.
No. Oh, I'm so disappointed.
I got fancy guns though.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I would at least go for like a pair of headphones or something. Like accessorize a little bit.
My sort of random lottery of components in the beginning was included a pair of like the Splatoon version of AirPods. So I have little wireless earbuds. Yeah. And some like big shit kicker boots and like a tattered t-shirt.
Okay.
For my squid kid.
Excellent.
Yeah. But so like I've been consuming this kind of two different directions. There's the single player, which I have been a fan of in all of the Splatoon games. I think they do a really, really good job with this, and they generally play out more like a puzzle game than sort of the more combat-oriented kind of online experience. There are certainly elements of combat in the single player campaigns, but more often than not, I would say probably a good 60% of the courses that you do, the little challenges that you do in the single player are, trying to solve some puzzle or trying to do some kind of challenge where you're like, you must shoot out all the targets with the new Splatoon bow and arrow crossbow while you're grinding on a rail going at 1,000 miles an hour and things like that. So there's a ton of little challenges. Some of it is sort of like, break the boxes in the correct order and things like that are, time challenges. So, all sort of loosely knit together with some kind of overarching story. They can be quite challenging sometimes. The Octo expansion for Splatoon 2 was like nail-bitingly difficult. Like,
I heard that was really hard.
Yeah. And then if you have the expansion pass for the Switch, you can play that for free. That's included with it. So if anyone's interested, I would encourage check it out. But know that is not indicative of the normal Splatoon experience. It is tuned up quite aggressively. And I don't think I got through the whole thing. It's pretty tough. Splatoon 3 is a little more approachable. But they do a really good job of sort of mixing it up with some fun different challenges and stuff like that. Not everything is time-based, which is a good way to like make me angry. But yeah, it's a lot of like puzzle solving and navigation. There's elements of stealth to it, which are really cool.
That's
your
a good
character.
thing?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I think in you don't get really moments like that in the in the multiplayer online. But in the single player, you can use the little puddles of ink to drop down into the little squid and kind of sneak around.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there are challenges in the single player that are basically a giant complex of octo snipers trying to take you out. And you have to use, strategic little puddles of ink to hide in, to sneak from cover to cover, to get up behind them and, take them down from behind. So yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of other places that you can sort of flex the Splatoon thing in the single player. And it seems like the developers have sort of, tried to brainstorm every kind of unique, construction you can possibly assemble for like, what can we do with this tool set? So it feels very kind of random and experimental. You have a bit of an overworld with a bunch of different kind of drains in it, and you sort of, there's a process for unlocking the different drains, and you go down in one, and it's always this sort of gamble of like, what kind of challenge is going to be? Is this going to be like a wave-based, a locomotion-based one where you're trying to move very fast and do something tough? Is it going to be a puzzle solve? Is it going to be a stealth? Some of them are just more or less kind of demos of different types of weapons and different types of loadouts you would get in the single player that you can use in the multiplayer. So on and on. So it's cool. It's a lot more sort of random than the lather, rinse, repeat of the turf war that you do online.
Sounds similar. Like I played a little bit of the Splatoon 2 campaign. And yeah, it wasn't quite what you would expect from like a single player shooter campaign.
Yeah. It's not just capture the flag over and over. So
yeah. It's kind of what I expect from Nintendo, though, where it's like they're doing their own thing a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, Splatoon
expectations
is very much them kind of looking for some way to get a competitive shooter onto a Nintendo platform. And yeah, it is kind of the most Nintendo competitive shooter ever.
Yeah, I think they did a great job with it, though. Like, people seem to love it. It's definitely not your standard first-person shooter, which I don't know exactly why they just haven't really never gotten traction on like the Switch or the Wii U.
Yeah.
But people love the Splatoon.
Yeah, I don't quite understand that either. And I'm obviously not a big consumer of Call of Duty games or anything like that, but you would think EA would want to get Switch people to play that game, right? There's millions of Switch users, many of whom probably have other consoles as well, but how hard would it be to get a Call of Duty game onto a Switch?
I don't know. It just feels like they stopped trying at a certain point.
Yeah.
Maybe the Switch just can't handle it. Like, I know they have Apex Legends on the Switch, but I don't think the port is especially great. Yeah.
I know a lot of the EA Sports games, they've more or less kind of given up. The soccer games don't come to the Switch anymore. So, yeah. I mean, obviously, sort of the further we get into the Switch's lifetime, the more of them there are out in the world, but the farther and farther you get away from kind of parity with the PS5 and Xbox.
I imagine that's like probably the biggest factor.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, like, why now? Why Splatoon 3 on the same platform as Splatoon 2? Like, what differentiates it?
Not a ton. I think that if anything, that is the point at which it is sort of a little bit of a letdown, is that this feels very much like... Splatoon 2 felt very much like Splatoon 1, but Splatoon 1 came out on the Wii U and probably was not appreciated by a lot of people.
They had a do-over situation.
More or less. But yeah, I mean, Splatoon 2, has been relatively active until not too long ago, with new events and new little, what are their, not turf war things, but the little like cats versus dogs little competitions they would do every other weekend. Yeah.
The Splatfest. Is that every other week?
I don't know if it was every other week or once a month. I forget what their cadence was. I fell off of that eventually. That has continued in Splatoon 3. It just feels like a little bit of kind of more of the same, and it feels like a bit of an expansion of some of the concepts. In the plaza that you start in is much, much bigger in Splatoon 3 than it ever has been before, and there's a bunch of different shops and things like that. There's a whole sort of social media element to it where people can upload little postcards. So you have this existed in Splatoon 2 as well. You have little ghost versions of other players with fun little messages and sayings over their heads. But there's a lot more stuff you can do in the plaza. The thing that has kind of taken off in Splatoon 3 is you get a locker, apparently, that is sort of a physical manifestation of all your little upgrades and collectibles and stuff like that. And people, much like sort of Animal Crossing, decorating their island and showing it off. People are decorating their locker and stocking it full of cool little, unusual expressions of their character and their personality.
Can you show off your locker online?
I think you do like screenshots and things like that.
Okay, but it's not like, come hang out at my locker or whatever.
I'm not aware of a way to in-game to see other people's lockers. Yeah. Yeah.
I do really love that they're still doing like the Miiverse style drawings, and I don't know if they're like text posts to go along with those, but
yeah,
like on some level it's just so funny because it is so directly from Miiverse, which like it didn't even exist, I think, when Splatoon 2 came out, but they stuck with that same sort of like black and white, whatever sort of wide ratio, like I don't know what you call it, like a drawing canvas.
Yeah.
But I've seen an increasing number of those on social media over the last few weeks, and I just thought, Splatoon 3 came out, so it's cool that they're still doing that.
For listeners who don't know what this is, so there's a mailbox in the Splatoon Plaza where you can go up to it, and it gives you a little canvas. And, most people would probably draw something with their finger or write something funny, but people go real hard on these and put a lot of work into unique pieces of art or, I don't know, some sort of image that represents their little guild or whatever. Or I've seen, progressive or political statements. There was somebody who had a trans rights flag over their little character today. So yeah, it's cool. It's just a fun little way of, expressing yourself. And it seems like people, if you're inclined to, are putting a lot of work into it. And these little thought bubbles appear over other characters floating around in the little Splatoon Plaza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. It's like one of my favorite things about Splatoon, that environment exists still.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like regulated to death by Nintendo.
Well, I mean, not to death.
No.
I've seen people posting warnings they've gotten from like the mods or whoever.
Yes.
For posting like, not incredibly unsavory stuff, but just, stuff that might fly on a non-Nintendo platform.
Yeah. So there's more, it feels like there's more things like that, more little customization tweaks, more little, billions of new little outfits and hats and shoes and all kinds of other little fun things. And all of those come with little kind of in-game perks that you can take into the multiplayer with you. So yeah, in a lot of ways, much like, what Fortnite has become is it's just paper dolls. It's a lot of dress up. Yeah. Online continues to be fun, and they've mixed up some of the sort of classic trappings of the campaign. The cool thing about Splatoon is that it's, killing other people, splatting other players, can still be done, and is still super satisfying when it does happen. But the most important part is just inking as much turf. So you're still not going for like the highest kill death ratio. You're really just trying to cover as much of the arena in your team's paint color as humanly possible. And you get little, extra little XP boosts for taking out other people and stuff like that. And there are certainly a number of like cool little defensive weapons and upgrades and perks. And there's a little tank now that you can drive around the level that looks like a crab. And it does like a Gatling gun kind of thing out of his claws. And it's crazy. And it explodes quite satisfyingly. once you've run out of gas with it. But so yeah, there's tons of little, expansions on many of the concepts, obviously, that existed in Splatoon 1 and 2. So it's just, yeah, it's a lot of more of the same. If you liked those other things, here's some more of that thing.
Mm-hmm. Is there like a big new thing in Splatoon 3?
There are 3-way battles now, which is kind of, I've only gotten them once in the rotation, and I've played quite a few over the course of the weekend, online skirmishes. I think you have to be a higher level to get into them. But traditionally there have been 2 teams on each map, sort of starting at each end of the map and kind of working their way towards the center and trying to ink as much territory as possible. Now there are 3, and there are arenas sort of designed to have 3 teams. So 12 players instead of 8 working their way towards each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So is it you could just jump into one of those from the start?
I don't think you can at level 1. I think you have to you have to level up a bit before you can get into some of that stuff. It gates quite a few things out of away from you until you're like level 4.
The thing I heard was that it sounded more like a final round of some like tournament, like maybe this was during one of the Splatfests or something. But like it would be like 2 smaller teams versus a third team that was like a regular sized team or something like that.
That's not has been my experience with it. Like I said, I've only gotten into it one time, I thought, but when it popped up on the screen, I was like, "Oh, this is one of those things."
Okay.
But no, I think
in that case, that's very cool.
3-4 player teams, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But yeah, it has not come up a lot in the rotation, and it seems like sort of different days have different number, like different map. And it happened to the previous games too. Is the game has a ton of maps, but on any given day, you only have 2 or 3 of them in the rotation. So they use it as a way of like herding people into the same maps and playing with each other rather than just breaking up the entire community across 12 different maps. Which kind of works until you've played the same map over and over for like 9 times. And it gets a little frustrating. So I do wish there was a little more rotation to that, but that was a frustration in Splatoon 2. I continue to get a lot of like, unexpected network error has occurred.
Of course.
And you get dumped out of that stuff real quick. And again, Nintendo is not awesome at sort of handling those things. So some of that stuff is still frustrating. Yeah, I keep ending up on teams where it's me versus a bunch of other players whose names are a bunch of kanji characters. So the Japanese kids have come to just destroy us, basically, and they do ultimately destroy us. The worst loss I've had on Splatoon 3. At the end, you get a map that tells you what percentage of coverage you got on your side of the map versus theirs, and they had something like 79% versus my team's 21. And we worked hard to get that 21. It was bad, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna take a break and get a beer and maybe let this rotation of teams move on without me, and I'll come back later and try to play with people who are a little more level appropriate.
Oh man, I wonder if the 3 team thing is it because of Splatoon 3 they decided to do 3 teams at once because that would be such a Nintendo thing to do.
Yeah, that had not occurred to me, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I was just thinking I thought it was only in like. You'd only get a limited number of those because they were in a tournament or something. But if it's one of the default modes, that is amazing. I had to get my mention in this week, but like the default PvP mode in Final Fantasy XIV was a 3-team mode for the longest time. Which is weird, right? Because you just never see that, really. But it was fascinating because you would end up with all these, like, weird sort of dynamic situations that you just wouldn't get in another game that's 1-on-1. So I'm actually kind of interested now. I wonder how that's one of the same stuff is happening in Splatoon. I don't know how much how possible it is to coordinate with your teammates on in Splatoon 3. I imagine it's quite different than playing like a Call of Duty or something on a more sort of online capable console. But imagine some pretty wild plays.
There's a ton of extra stuff that they've added to the Nintendo Android app and presumably the iOS one. That
you still have to use that to play online?
You still have to use it. Well, if you want to communicate online. I played a ton without communicating with other players. But at one point I was like, well, let's see what the app does. It's still annoying. I could use my headphones though, and I could, tether it to my phone and it's still synced up. And it was sending me little notifications of other people I had played with who were starting a new game and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But yeah.
How does that work now? Do you just are you able to voice chat with people on your team?
Yes. Yep.
If you have to be using the app,
they have to be using the app. Yeah, I don't think you can chat through the Switch.
Okay. Huh. Man, just weird Nintendo solutions to things.
Yeah. The internet says that the 3-team thing is a Splatfest thing.
Oh, okay.
So it might have been last weekend when I jumped into a Splatfest, and that's why it's not popping up very often, because the Splatfests are special events.
Okay. I was thinking, it would be kind of a tough sell to make that the only mode, because I'm sure people just love playing, the traditional 2-team modes.
Yeah.
But, man, they did, Mario Kart Double Dash, and it was just weird Mario Kart for 4 years. Why not just do a 3-team shooter?
Yeah. It says in the first half of the Splatfest battles, a normal 4v4 turf war will happen like before. In the second half, a new mode called a tricolor turf war will happen. 3 teams will battle each other at the exact same time, meaning 3 teams with 3 ink colors are on the stage. So I must have randomly hopped into one of those last weekend while the Splatfest was still happening.
Okay, yeah, because there are 3 teams in each Splatfest now, right?
Yes, yeah. There's rather than in the past where it was cats or dogs, now it's cats, dogs, or hamsters or whatever.
Yeah, or hamsters. So the third option.
The always the third option. Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah. I guess these are special events. This is not sort of part of the normal rotation.
Man, I kind of wish they had done it. Just roll out a 3-team game and then see how it goes for 6 months, and if enough people complain, they reintroduce the 2-team modes. But what a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's fun though. It was cool. Definitely changes the dynamic to have that many more people on these relatively claustrophobic little arenas.
Yeah, plus you can, take your squad and kind of maneuver behind another team while they're busy fighting that third team. Do all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah. It's really fun that they do a lot of little credentials for you as you finish a map now and I don't remember them being to this extent in Splatoon 2, but here in 3, as you wrap up, you get a little flags that tell you were, you ink the most territory. You were the number 1 bullet sponge on your team. You were the number 2 splatting your base. Or number 1 of splatting your own base. And I think this sort of corresponds to the whole. There's an online conversation about, do you start by splatting up your own base, or do you quickly, as soon as you're on the battlefield,
splat the base?
Oh, I agree. I don't disagree. I am team splat the base. But there are very much players who zoom into the map and then immediately charge to the other end to try to sort of meet the enemy at their on their way to our base. And I'm very much not that player. I definitely hang out at home base and make sure I'm all splatted up before I try to venture out.
Oh yeah, I don't want those people on my team. Wait, is that the prevailing strategy? Is that what you're supposed to do?
I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do. Again, that's some of the conversation I've sort of seen on the internet, particularly on Twitter, where it's you either start the game by splatting your own base, or you don't get to play with Medley.
Exactly. That's just the guy who, playing Battlefield, he just grabs the sniper rifle and goes off in the opposite direction of your squad. You're just like, oh, geez, who let him in here?
I tried to be that guy for a little while, and then I realized that I am not tuned for that in Battlefield, so I just handed out med packs to everybody.
Yeah, see, that's what you want to do.
Yeah. How can I be of support to my fellow gamers?
You're just like, oh, good. Somebody's handing out mid packs. Nobody's ever like, oh, thank God we have some guy 40 miles away on a hill with a sniper rifle.
Random headshots, and everybody's wondering, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's certainly an element of that in Splatoon, but I think it's always ridiculous when they want to give me a sniper rifle or something, and I'm like, who's hanging back in Splatoon and picking off headshots in this game?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sniper rifles, of course, ink as well, so you do get some coverage with them, but they're so slow. It requires a fair amount of patience in a game that, I mean, these matches are only like 4 minutes long.
Right.
How many people are you sniping in 4 minutes? So,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Depends how good you are with that thing.
Yeah, and it's cool at this point that there's so many different classes of weapons and so many different sort of variations on the weapons within those classes that there is something for everyone in Splatoon, I think. And the game makes it very easy to kind of experiment with those tools and stuff like that too. So yeah, it's kind of fun. I dig it.
What's your go-to weapon?
Dualies at this point. I'm
Dualies.
dual wield paint guns, basically. They're super fast, and when you have them, you can do a dodge roll.
Okay.
You can't otherwise dodge in the game unless you have the dualies. While you are dodging, you are briefly invincible. And when you stop your dodge, you can, the two reticles from your two guns overlap with each other, and they do double damage for like half a second. So if you can dodge out of the way, stop real quick, and then get that single reticle on the bad guy, you can quickly splat them, leave a ton of your color ink around, and then move on to the next objective.
It's not like you have... Wait, you don't have two reticles the whole rest of the time, do you? Or do they just
they're
always
two side
point
by
in the same
side
direction?
So you're shooting two streams of ink. You can't control them independently.
Okay. Like, that would be incredible. I don't
It
think
would be
anybody's
nuts,
ever done
no.
that.
It's not quite that hardcore, but no, it's after you do the dodge roll, the two reticles sort of overlap with each other and turn into one, and you do double damage.
Got it.
But yeah, I like the dualies. I'm mostly started putting all of my money into those. I'm not good with the paintbrushes or the rollers. I'm certainly not good with the slosher, the bucket of paint. I'm not good at that stuff.
Oh,
little too slow for
my
me.
favorite in Splatoon
Is it really?
2. Yeah. It's like,
I mean, we need
I like
those
the
people.
idea of the roller, but it was a little too sort of cumbersome. But I think those paintbrushes were new in Splatoon 2, and I was like, okay, this is the happy middle ground between the other weapons.
Yeah, because you can just hold that button down and paint a stripe of paint.
Because that's all I want to do, really, is like, I want to, be the support character who's inking everything up, and if somebody gets close to me, I'll just hit him with my paintbrush.
This is cool, and this is new to Splatoon 3, is there's a recon option. There's somebody in the plaza you can talk to every day, and she will give you a recon pass where you can go into the online arenas alone and just check them out.
Okay.
So if, like me, you're not good at getting very far on these arenas because you get splatted or because you're too busy trying to paint up your base, you can go in unopposed and just kind of poke around, just kind of explore, just kind of hang out for a little while, get the lay of the land, and then go back.
That's
and actually,
smart.
Yeah, I love it.
Why don't games just have that?
I don't know. She was hanging out in the plaza, and a little thing came up over her head. She's a fish lady, and I was like, "Oh, what do you do?" And she's like, "Oh, I'll sell you or I'll give you a recon pass, where you could basically be a tourist in any of the online maps, and just to check them out, just to sort of get the lay of the land and build up, your knowledge base for your strategy." I'm like, "Oh, that's super smart. I love that. I'm a fan of that."
I think back in the day, I would just set up like a custom match with only myself.
Yeah.
And then kind of wander around. But it was never just presented to you as an option. You'd have to sort of figure that out.
Yeah.
That's cool, though. Yeah, you definitely could do that in the last one, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. I think she's new to this third one. But yeah, so there's a ton of stuff in this. I'm having a very good time with it, which is why I spent a lot of time over the last 2 weekends playing Splatoon 3 and not Ooblets. So, I'm pretty far in the single player. I've completed most of that stuff. There are a couple little challenges that have bested me. And I just don't have the patience to go back to it and mop them up just yet. But the online continues to be super fun, super fast. It's one of those like, all right, well, the maps are only like 4 minutes long. I could do like one more, maybe two more before I go to bed. And so I find myself quickly sort of negotiating my time of how many more maps can I do before I have to go to sleep.
They made so many like low-key genius decisions with how they structured the online in this. I mean, maybe not the online overall, because a lot of it's terrible, but like the match structure itself. Like, I love that it's objective based, and I love that they're only 4 minutes long, because you never get like that one match from hell where the other team was just ruining you for 15 minutes. Like, this is not fun.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
even the worst Splatoon match you've ever had, you probably have completely forgotten about because it's just over so quickly.
Oh yeah, you're quickly on to the next one. Absolutely. Yeah, the thing I sort of appreciate about the short time of the matches too is that it really is not 100% clear. Did we do it? Essentially, I mean, you're trying to sort of ink the most turf, and you're only going for 4 minutes, so. Like there's a push-pull, you'll die a couple times, you'll get a little further into their side of the map as opposed to them coming into our side of the map. And I get to one sometimes before the meter comes up at the end that tells you the percentages, where I'm sort of like, I feel like we won that one. I feel like we put up a better opposition, we got a little further into their side, and then the bar will come up and I'll find that it's, 39% to 61% or something like that. And I'm like, oh no, we weren't even close. That was not even. So yeah, I think keeping it short, keeping it just 4 minutes long makes it sort of feel like, did we do it? Did we not do it? Rather than it being sort of this big decisive thing where like we totally dominated that other team for, however long the match would have been.
Yeah.
So it does feel
really
a little
good.
more random, a little more like skill based. So yeah, it's I don't know. I dig it. Again, I feel like there's so many elements of this from the customization. The music continues to be awesome.
It's good.
They have a whole thing built into the single player now where you find little gold records. So you get a little jukebox and it changes up the background music and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's what I want. I want Splatoon soundtracks all day. Yeah. And then sort of the deep dive into the weird lore and all of the other like post-apocalyptic craziness that happens behind the Splatoon facade of are you a squid or are you a kid? So yeah, it's nutty. It's so much random, wacky, batty shit happening in Splatoon, and it's all super fun and super engaging.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad people are having a good time with it, or it seems like it's still fun. It's always seemed like, I've never been a huge Splatoon fan, but it does feel like just Nintendo is so confident about the Splatoon games, like the art design, all the costumes and fashion and everything. The soundtracks have just been on another level. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, and their commitment to sort of keeping it alive too, and having kind of a roadmap to DLC and occasional events, and really boosting like the visibility of the social media aspects of it and stuff like that. So it seems like kind of this perfect manifestation of all of the things that Nintendo seems to struggle with still, even sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's whoever is sort of running the team over at Team Splatoon is kind of just getting what they want, I think, and really kind of knows how to pull it together.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good. I have unfortunately talked about Splatoon for like 40 minutes. Talk to me about Potion Permit. So
I played some Potion Permit, which is not really about farming, although I suspected there might be farming at some point. And maybe there still will be. Who knows? But this is the game that came out fairly recently, where you are not a witch, you are an alchemist who moves to a remote village, Moonbury Village, because the mayor's daughter is sick, and they tried everything, including consulting their witch doctor, to no avail. So it's up to you to brew some potions and figure out what it'll take to cure the mayor's daughter. And you do this by, as you might expect, going out into the wilderness and gathering like reagents and ingredients and putting them into a big cauldron to make a potion.
Nice. I do like a game with a big cauldron.
Oh, yeah. Well, I get the game for you.
Yeah. I know, it's kind of fun. It's like collecting a bunch of random stuff and throwing it into a pot and seeing like what cool thing comes out of it. Dragon Quest 9. Sure. That was the first time I remember that happening in a Dragon Quest game. And then, fast forward 10 years later and it's in every game.
Yeah. I have to keep reminding myself that you're not a witch in this. It starts out very, like, eerily similar to Little Witch in the Woods, which I played a few months ago.
Yeah.
Where you are just on a train going to, your sort of destination where you will be performing witchcraft, essentially. To the point where I just thought, wait, is this, like, which one of these games is cribbing off the other game? I can't tell. But it's a little different in that in this case, you in Little Witch in the Woods, you're supposed to go to this big like witch city or whatever, or like witch academy, I think. But in this one, you are, as I said, you're an alchemist from the big fancy capital, and you're sent out to this little sort of backwater village where I swear everybody is just an idiot, and you're sent to figure out what's wrong with the mayor's daughter. And initially, you are not well received by the villagers, and I found it a little off-putting, even. The basis in the story is that there used to be a chemist who was helping out Moonbury Village, and they caused this huge accident, and it really screwed up the surrounding ecosystem, so now they just don't trust anybody from the capital, especially not chemists.
Oh.
So you really, you have a few escorts with you from the whatever, like the alchemy bureau or whatever it is in the capital, who drop you off at the in the village. But after that, whenever you run into somebody, they are very quick to point out how they don't trust you, or people who come from the capital, and please don't screw up our village again, blah blah blah.
Which anti-science nitwits.
Yes, seriously. What I thought was weird, because reading about this made it sound very much to me like kind of the Stardew Valley, like get to know the townsfolk kind of game, establish relationships with them and solve their problems.
Kind of cozy and wholesome.
Yeah, and it's not like to the point where it's, I don't know, like malicious or like scary or anything.
They're not like picketing outside of your office and throwing blood on you.
No, not that I've seen. They're just not really pleased that you're there. And it looks like you just spend a lot of the game sort of wearing them down and showing them that you are trying to make a difference in this town. But for the first few hours anyway, it's just, they just don't want to talk to you. It's weird. So, knowing that maybe I'll have to wait a while to make any headway with the villagers, I tried to figure out just what I'm supposed to be doing in the meantime, which for the first few hours sort of boils down just going out and collecting the ingredients that I was talking about. And it's mostly what you would expect. You just go out into like the wilderness outside the town, and you will notice these very conspicuous sort of gathering points, whether it's like a big mushroom on the ground, or a tree, or a conspicuous rock that you gather using your array of sort of alchemist tools. And I don't know why I call them alchemist tools, because it's really just you have like a hammer and an axe and a sickle to gather these things. There's nothing really specialized. But then you bring them all back and put them in the cauldron, and you play a little potion mixing minigame, which is one of like many, many little weird minigames in this. But the potion mixing one is interesting because you select the type of potion you want to make from your little alchemy recipe book, and it puts a little grid up on the screen, and it's your job to fill in that grid using the ingredients that you gathered, and each ingredient has a little corresponding sort of like Tetris piece almost, of like 1 to 4 or 5 blocks, and you have to fit them all into this shape in the cauldron until it's all filled. And there are other restrictions on top of that, like early on you can use any ingredient, essentially. Like each ingredient has an elemental alignment, so like some will be like fire aspected and others will be water aspected.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't make a difference starting out because you can use any of them, but eventually you'll be restricted to only use fire ingredients for this one or whatever. So it becomes a little more challenging to build the correct shape, or enough of the shape anyway, out of the ingredients you have on hand. Plus there's also a limit to the number of ingredients you can put into one potion. So I got to the point where I just didn't have essentially Tetris pieces that were large enough to fill the entire sort of potion grid at once. And I had to go out and forage for some other ingredients. So kind of I'm not sure how how much of a match it is to be playing sort of this grid filling game while making a potion, but it does make it a little more interesting than the potion mixing in Little Witch in the Woods, where you're essentially just picking things off a list and then choosing which direction to stir the cauldron.
Gotcha. So it's a little bit like Fantasy Life, right? Where
It is a little bit. Yeah, it does remind me quite a bit of Fantasy Life, actually.
yeah, and all the jobs in it was a 3DS game. For the sake of our listeners, that you had a number of different jobs you could occupy, and the execution of said jobs, like if you were I don't know, an alchemist or what was the thing that I was a lot, the metal worker. You
Like
could
a blacksmith or something.
a blacksmith. That's the word I was looking for. You would do like a little mini game, a little like button pressed rhythm game, essentially to execute all of these things, and it would tell you how successfully you built or constructed the thing you were trying to build or construct.
Yeah. It's funny because there are, like I said, there are many other little mini games scattered throughout this thing. And you play a few that remind me very much of the Fantasy Life crafting, because when you have a sick patient, starting with, like the first one you have is the mayor's daughter, you have to go over to the little clinic and diagnose them, which, like, the first step is you just move a cursor over this little silhouette of the character, depending on where they said that, like, oh, my left arm feels weird. So you naturally move the cursor over to the left arm. Not a lot of brain power required. But then it makes you play sort of like one of a selection of different mini games, some of which are just like it'll put 4 directional buttons up on the screen. You just have to press them in the correct order. And then my favorite is like the rhythm mini game, where buttons scroll from left to right and you just have to push them when they hit the little circle at the end of the track.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing about this is that you do this in complete silence. So it's not like press it on the beat or anything. It's just kind of watch these things and hope you're pressing it at the correct time when it overlaps the circle.
That's kind of weird.
It is really weird. And that's sort of been my experience with a lot of the little mini games outside of the main potion mixing one, is that they just feel like these really arbitrary sort of like side activities. In fact, a lot of elements in this game feel a little bit, I don't know, not especially deep. It does, like starting out, I thought, oh man, I'm going to go to this village and there's going to be all these town people to talk to, and I can build relationships with them, and on the side I'll be researching all these new potion recipes and gathering all these supplies, which sounds like, wow, there's just so much going on in this game. I'm going to be playing this for the next 100 hours or so. But as I've gotten further into it, it seems like a lot of, I mean, there certainly is a lot of stuff to do, but a lot of the interactions so far are not especially deep. They're just kind of like repetitive and a little grindy. And not to the point where it is like adversely sort of affecting my my time with the game, because I'm still having a good time just sort of progressing my little potion shop or potion. Did they just call it a potion house? Which is like fine. I don't know what that's called. But like when you go talk to the villagers, you can talk to them essentially like once a day as you see them walking around outside or working at their job or wherever. And you just talk to them once to increase their sort of friendship level with you a little bit each day. But it's not like you're having, you know, a conversation or some sort of meaningful interaction with them. You just have to go talk to them to check the box off. And they will tend to just say the same thing every day, which is really weird because it doesn't always really, it's like not something I would equate to making sort of progress in a relationship with. Like my favorite one is I'll go like run into the police chief or something, and he'll just say something like, "Oh, I'm very busy. Please don't talk to me. In fact, please get away from me." That's sort of the typical attitude towards you from all the villagers at the start of the game.
Dismissive.
And so he'll just be very dismissive of you, and then the friendship meter appears, and it's like, it just increases a little bit. Like, I did it. I'm just wearing this guy down.
I'm wearing him down, exactly.
Yeah, and then see, you find him again the next day, he says the exact same thing, and once again, the little meter fills up. So I thought, well, once this is full, he better change his tune a little bit, or it's just going to be a weird relationship I have with this guy.
You just have to love bomb this cop DJ.
Yeah. So it's a little weird. I think you can like romance a few of the villagers because of course, but I'm not at that point yet.
You've talked to me 6 days in a row. Naturally, we should go on a date now.
Yes, exactly. I imagine it is not too far removed from that.
Oh. Well, sounds like a bit of a bummer. I saw like a YouTube teaser of this with one of my favorite little cozy gamer reviewers, and she was a big fan of it. And it sounds like it's not pushing the right buttons for you.
I mean, it's fine. I'm not in love with it.
Yeah.
I do like, I do like kind of the main loop, which is just going out and gathering materials, and eventually you're able to afford equipment upgrades and everything. Although it does feel a little bit like busy work at times. Like it feels a little SteamWorld dig, where it's just like go out and gather enough stuff. And once you've done that enough times, you'll be able to gather fancier stuff.
Yeah.
But I also just continue to unlock new features in the village. Like you start out and there's very little you can actually do. You can just go out and gather materials, essentially. And in order to upgrade any of them, in order to add on facilities to your potion house, or unlock different like other facilities and upgrade them within the village, you need money. And each time you craft a potion, it tells you how much money it's worth if you sell it. So I thought, okay, I'm not really doing anything. Like I just got all day. It runs in a 24-hour like day-night cycle to just go out and gather materials until my stamina is depleted, and then I'll go to bed and go out and do it again the next day. So I just have all these extra materials around. I'll just make tons and tons of potions to sell, and then I'll be rolling in it, and I can get all these upgrades that I can't afford at the moment.
Right.
So I did that. And then I realized I didn't know how to sell any of them. Like, you can't just go to the shop and sell them to one of the shopkeepers because they don't want them. So I was like, how do I make money? Because at the same time, I'm like having to buy food from the local tavern. Not because I'm hungry. It's not like in Harvestella where you just have to keep eating constantly. But, you can buy stamina replenishing food in case you want to go out and gather longer than you would normally be able to.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this money supply that's just gradually like wearing down, and I'm getting a little worried about it. But eventually, like after enough days have passed, you unlock a little like post office drop box where you can deposit your extra potions. And then you get paid for them. So I was like, oh, okay, great. So now I can just start dumping all these extra potions I made into this, and then I'll be rich. But there are so many weird little features like that in the game that just don't unlock until enough time has passed. That at first it feels very sort of limited, and you're just like, what do? I've just gone out and gathered enough materials for the day, and I can't really do anything else. So I guess I'll go to bed. But that is how you unlock the rest of the game, apparently. So I'm just kind of getting used to the loop and how the game presents things to you. Like I said, there's a day and night cycle, and all the villagers seem to have their own little routines, like when they go to work and when they leave work and when businesses open and close for the day, which is kind of interesting. And I feel like it's something, like if you play this game a lot, you would just kind of get used to. It's been a little tricky planning my routine around it because you wake up at like 6 a.m., which is so early. And then a lot of the businesses don't open until like 8 or 10 in the morning. So I just have to kind of occupy myself for a few hours. And then I can go, upgrade my tools or buy stuff at the shops or whatever. But it's kind of fun. It's not in real time, so it's kind of like an accelerated cycle. So it makes it a little easier to just go and get stuff done.
Not as fast as Harvestella's, I hope.
No, it definitely feels like Harvestella felt so like oppressive almost in how quickly time passed in that game.
I agree, yeah.
So it's not as bad as that. It does... I mean, sometimes it passes faster than I'd like. Especially when I'm out gathering, I'll just be out. I'll have just depleted the entire landscape of trees and rocks and everything. And I'll look at the clock and go, I can't even make it back to the tavern or something because it's already closed. I guess I'll just go back to bed.
Go to bed hungry.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, though, because there's not really... up until this point, it doesn't seem like there's any real time pressure for you to be really efficient during the day. The only thing that has come up so far is whenever you get a new patient at the clinic, they will have a time limit over their heads in which you have to diagnose and then come up with the correct potion to treat them. Otherwise, they get sent off to the witch doctor as sort of like the other means of healthcare in the village because it's like if you can't do it in time, then he'll just take care of it.
They go get a second opinion.
Yeah. And so far, like the diagnosis mini games are so simple, and I have just a stockpile of potions on hand already. So I think pretty much every time a patient's come in, I've just had the correct medicine for them right away. So it hasn't been an issue. But as I start to unlock more complicated recipes, I imagine sort of the issues that people come in with will be more complicated as well.
You should play Strange Horticulture.
I was thinking about that as I was playing this because that was you're basically doing the same thing in that, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of and Strange Horticulture is not. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Potion Permit, it's like you have a depiction of a village and you run around and go out into the woods and do stuff. And and Strange Horticulture is not that. You more or less have a map and some tools and a couple of shelves with flowers on them and stuff and plants on them, and that is more or less. Where you spend all of your time. There's not like an actual depiction of your character, like walking around and going to shops and stuff like that. But it sounds like it has a more sort of compelling kind of Strange Horticulture, more compelling sort of puzzle loop to it, a little more compelling kind of characterization and mystery to it. I really like that game, and I thought it kind of pushed all those buttons really well and really creatively. It sounds like Potion Permit maybe, has the ideas but doesn't quite have the execution.
Yeah, it's a little mid, as the kids say. I found myself thinking as I was playing this, like it's fine, I'm enjoying it, but I acknowledge that a lot of it is just go out and get more resources, so the numbers go up. You can buy a fancier sledgehammer and all that. But I'm down to play a game like that every once in a while. The thing I love about the villagers, though, and why I say it is just everybody is so stupid in the city, is that they'll come in and they'll be like in the clinic, just under the covers in a bed, like who knows what's going on, and they'll go, "Oh, my arm hurts," or something. My arm feels weird, and you'll do the diagnosis, and it's like, "Oh, you have a bruise." Like, you didn't realize that what was going on. You never seen a bruise before or whatever. I think somebody else just had like an itchy leg. Like you needed an alchemist to come out and mix some mushrooms together to fix this.
Restless leg syndrome.
These guys, yeah. So that's kind of unintentionally hilarious, but who knows? Maybe they'll come up with some like horrific diseases in the next few chapters.
There's a global pandemic, and you're the only one.
The only one left. Yeah, just me and the Switch Doctor.
Yep.
Anyway, I was I imagine I'll keep on playing it. It's been I kind of like the potion minigame, or at least I'm imagining the point where I just have, cabinets full of limitless reagents to put into these things. Because once you've mixed a potion enough, you can sort of save your custom layout of Tetris pieces and then just mix that automatically every single time. So I just want to get to that point where I can come back and auto craft a bunch of potions. And then, I don't know, go and tear up the wilderness some more. But, I thought I would end up enjoying this far more than Little Witch in the Woods, but I kind of find myself thinking back, that game also had its issues, but I don't know if it's sort of the witch lifestyle was more appealing than the weird sort of chemist lifestyle, or just the presentation was maybe slightly better in that game. I don't know. Still sort of searching for my ideal potion mixing game.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, those are the ones that I know of. So yeah, Witchwood.
Yeah. Oh, Witchwood. Yeah, I forgot there's that other one.
Yeah.
And you actually wear the cauldron in that, if I remember correctly.
Yes, your hat is the cauldron. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing that really disappoints me about this, is that I'm not willing to accept that you're not a witch and you're not wearing a witch hat the whole time. In fact, it's not even an accessory you can buy at the tailor. You can just change the color of your clothes. You can't buy a fancy hat or anything like that. Because that would be terrific.
Seems like a missed opportunity.
Well, I think they're just, adamant about not, your character is not a witch. So why would you wear a witch hat?
Right. Yeah. Maybe you're just fashionable. Maybe it's October and you're try and mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, they could at least add in some like Halloween DLC or something.
Yeah. Halloween DLC for every game.
True, like maybe just not even DLC, just mandatory witch hats when you're playing the game in October. That would be something.
Absolutely. I back that.
Yeah. No, I'd back that too.
All right.
So anyway,
well,
kind of fun.
Yeah.
My 2-word review.
Kind of fun.
No, I mean, it's been a long time since I played a game where you're just in kind of what feels like a living city like this. Not living as in everybody has an especially deep personality or anything, but as you're out and walking around the town, you just see other people going about their business, which I think is fun.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I have this. I want to get to it at some point. So
I'd be curious to know what you think.
Yeah.
This is Potion Permit. I'm playing it on the Switch. I believe it's on Steam as well. I think there's actually a demo on Steam, if you're curious.
Oh, cool. All right, well, should wrap this thing up. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to join our Discord, hang out with us, and chat about video games. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com as well. And we would encourage you to subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcasting app of choice. And maybe help us out by telling your friends about the show.
Yeah, it really helps us get the word out about the show. One of the best ways people learn about us is just through word of mouth, so that would be great.
Yeah. We love when somebody joins the Discord. Discord. Whoops. Joins the Discord and they're like, hey, I'm here. I'm a new person and I'm friends with this other person who was here before. And they said I should come hang out here because you guys are all cool. And I'm like, yeah. I love that. We are all cool. I agree.
Oh, good. Well, I'm relieved.
I mean, some of us, anyways.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, it turned around real fast.
Yeah. Well, let me show you how to get to the real Discord.
Yeah, right. Secret Discord. Oh, man.
The speakeasy Discord, yeah.
Exactly. You got to know the password. We want to give thanks again to Saria Lemus this week for our amazing intro and outro music. You can check out more of her work at pettypanol.bandcamp.com. By the way, Randy, is it Bandcamp Friday this Friday?
It is Bandcamp Friday this Friday.
Oh, incredible. What does that mean?
That means that 100% of everything you buy on Bandcamp, and Saria Lemus is not the only person whose music is on there, but we would encourage you to start with her. Everything you buy, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the creator, to the person who made that music. Normally Bandcamp takes a cut, which is not unreasonable. But on these little Bandcamp Fridays, which they seem to do kind of once a month, everything goes to the person who made that music. So that is a good day to stock up on cool new video game tunes. Yeah.
So this Friday, especially, just add to cart and hit the button.
Absolutely. Cool. We'll be back next week. We can talk all about the music we bought on Friday.
Oh.
Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.